Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this webinar all about early years initial teacher training. We're just going to give people a couple of minutes to make sure everybody can hear properly, can see the slides, and has joined the session okay. So as we're waiting for everybody to come in, it'd be lovely to know where you're joining from today, which part of the country are you in? And it'll help us to see that the chat box is working properly as well, which we can use for any questions as we go through the presentation today. So please do feel free to just pop into the chat box whereabouts you're joining us from in the country. If you want to, you could add in what the weather's like, because we have had a huge variety, haven't we, of icy conditions, snow, lots of rain recently. So please do feel free to interact with us as you're going through the session too. Today is all going to be about what happens after you apply. So obviously, if you've taken that decision that early years teacher status is right for you, and I hope that lots of you do by the end of the session, this will hopefully walk you through those different stages in terms of what it looks like once you put your application in, and also some of the different members of the team that you'll come into contact with. There'll be lots of time at the end as well to just make sure that we've got the opportunity to answer any questions which haven't been picked up by the team as I go through. You can see that we've got lots of people on the call today, so we'll do our very best to answer all the questions as they come in. And then, as I said, we'll pick some up at the end as well. So this is for anybody who's interested in joining early years initial teacher training in our next cohort, which is going to be September 2026. My name's Helen, I'm head of EYITT, and I'm joined on the call today with a few different people from the team, from our marketing, from our office team support as well. Okay. So I'm going to start off just by giving you a few key facts about early years teacher status. Hopefully you've had a chance to look into it. You've perhaps had a look on our website, but I think it is really important that you understand that this is about leading teaching and learning across the very youngest age groups. So this is about having that expertise from birth through to 5 years old. I just want to be really clear that this is not qualified teacher status. If you are interested in getting QTS, or you are particularly wanting to work in a school or with an older age range, then again, please do go on our website and have a look at those courses that we offer in primary and in secondary if it's qualified teacher status that you need. But this is all about the early years age group. And the fantastic thing about this programme is it's fully funded by the DfE. So you can train for free. There are no costs there for you in terms of joining, in terms of anything that happens, in terms of any course fees. That's all covered. The other huge benefit, if you decide that you're joining on our graduate employment-based route, because you're already employed in a school or a setting, there's also an incentive there for your employer. So your employer is actually entitled to £7,000 in employer incentive funding, which is there to help you to gain your early years teacher status. It would be fantastic if we've got some childminders on the call today. We've been working really, really hard to make sure that our childminder offer is bespoke to your needs. And we've got a really nice group of childminders on the programme this year who are helping us to shape the programme and make sure that it suits your needs. It's fantastic because as well as being an expert in those early age groups, it's also about that progression in the curriculum. So we do spend some time on programme finding out about Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 and spending some time observing in those age groups as one of your placements. It's an opportunity for you to develop your leadership skills. So there'll be lots of people on the call today coming with lots of different experience or starting points. For each of you, that leadership journey will look different, but something that you will definitely come out with at the end of the programme is that upskilling in terms of how you can lead your team, how you can work with other professionals. And above all, we know it's going to strengthen your passion for working in the early years. So thinking about that first stage then, and you wanting to apply for a space on the programme, it's really important that when you click on that Apply Now button, you give us as much information as you can about yourself. So make sure that all of the questions that are in the form are answered in as much detail as you can, because that really helps us to get to know you as an individual. Keep in mind the different eligibility criteria that you need to be aware of. And again, if you haven't had chance already, please do go on the website and have a look, because there's lots and lots of information on there which will help you to know, what do I need? What might I need to upload when I'm putting my application together? Is there anything that I might need to send off for? Is there anybody that I might need to speak to for a reference? There are lots of different things that will help. Some of the key things there in terms of eligibility are obviously your GCSEs and your degree, but I will talk about that a little bit later on. Please share with us anything that you think we need to know, which is going to impact on your programme journey. So it might be that there's something in particular about your situation, your working hours, perhaps your childcare needs. Perhaps it's that you feel you need some support because you have a diagnosis, for example, for dyslexia. You will be asked lots of different questions, and we'd really, really urge you to share that with us at this stage, because it helps us to make sure that we put the right support in place for you. In terms of any documents that you need to upload, for example, we might need to know proof of your address. Please make sure that you take clear pictures when you're uploading them to the portal, because all of those things will speed up your application. And it sounds really obvious, but where I've said follow that guidance from the team, that's absolutely key. The team are going to work as hard as they can to make sure that you're ready to start on programme in September. And because that journey looks different for each of you, it may be that we set a deadline for one person that looks different to somebody else. That's just about us making sure that we can offer that place to you as soon as possible. It is a programme that is really high in demand. So we are the market leader for EYITT, and we work all across the country. We do only have a limited number of spaces. So if you're really keen to join, we want you to apply, and we obviously want to get you through each of these stages in the process. When you've completed all the bits you need to on your application and you're ready to come for an interview, I would say definitely spend some time reading through the preparation guide that we share with you. That's going to help to make sure that you're coming into the interview fully aware of the types of things that you're going to need to do. And also, you've given yourself a little bit of time to plan and to organise that, or maybe to read some current articles, or to find out more. Get together the questions that you want to ask to make sure that you get all the information that you need. So once your application is in and you get offered the opportunity to join an interview, again, be prepared and make sure you arrive on time. We conduct all of our interviews online. So again, you'll be joined by somebody from my interview team. They're all absolutely lovely. They're very friendly. They will make sure that you feel at ease. We are wanting to see you join our programme. So they're going to do everything they can to tease that information out of you, and make sure we find out about your current early years practice and your knowledge. Again, have a look on the website, because on the website, you'll see lots of videos and case studies of students that are on the programme at the moment to see what it feels like when you're in their shoes. Have your documents ready that you're asked to bring to the interview. Again, that helps us to make sure that there isn't any delays. It helps us to tick off any of the checks that we need to do. So, for example, to make sure that you have got the copies of the GCSEs that you might need, or we might be checking, for example, your passport number. You might need to have that document with you. We do ask everybody to do a short presentation, but please don't let this be something that puts you off. It's a presentation which is very early years based, and it's all about the importance of play. So we will tell you what the question is in your interview pack. You've therefore got time to think through, how do you want to answer that question? What are the key pieces of information you want to put in there? And also have a practice talking through it before you join the interview. I think it's really important as well that you take a little bit of time to think about the different programme requirements. So understand what you need to know about the placement and have a little think about how that's going to work for you. Or again, do you have any questions that you want to ask in terms of how you find that placement or what hours you need to be on placement, so that again, you're making sure before you accept that offer that you fully understand what the expectations of the programme are as well. When you've got through your interview, hopefully you're going to hear from us and we're going to be offering you a place. If that's the case, we do tend to send out conditional offers, and you'll receive your conditional offer, which will tell you really clearly why it's still conditional and what are the things that you need to do to be ready to start on programme in the next cohort. So I've put some of those key things on here. The first one being your learner agreement. So we'll send across to you an agreement document that you can read through again and make sure that you're happy with what you're signing up to. If you're employed in a setting, in a nursery or in a school setting, we need to obviously make sure that the employer is happy to support you in undertaking your early years teacher status. So they equally have to sign their employer declaration to show that they understand how they can support you and what we're expecting from them. Because, of course, we're working with children, as I'm sure lots of you do already, it's really important that we have that DBS check in place and that everybody completes their safeguarding training. We have to do that in order to be compliant as an ITT provider. So everybody will be sent some safeguarding training that they need to complete. And we do, of course, have to do those necessary checks to make sure that you're safe to work with children. For anybody who doesn't have any of those things in place already, that's absolutely fine. We will guide you through that process and we will make sure that that's ready before you start the programme. Again, it's really important that we know that you're all fit and you're well and you're healthy in terms of being able to teach children. So we do ask you to complete a short medical questionnaire. This will again give you the opportunity to tell us about anything that you're currently aware of or anything that we might need to know in terms of supporting you on programme. Again, this is not anything that's going to stop you. This is more a case of us knowing what those needs might be so that my team can support you, put a plan in place, maybe see if you might need any reasonable adjustments, or to talk you through what our offers are in terms of individual needs. As part of that offer that you do receive, there could be different conditions that are on there. I've just given an example there, which is you might have lost your GCSE certificates. And I can't tell you how many times this happens. And people will say to us, I think they're in the attic somewhere, or I'm going to go out to the garage this weekend and have a look, and they can't find them. Again, it isn't something that's going to stop you from being able to start on programme, but we do need to have them for our own record check and again for compliance. So it might be that you have to order those certificates. Again, we can help you with that. Sometimes people have forgotten which exam board they're with. Again, it's fine. We can help you and we'll make sure that we've got that in place before the programme starts. In terms of meeting those deadlines and working with the team, again, that's really important because, of course, we've only got so many places. So when we get towards the start of the programme, if there's only a certain number of spaces left and someone provides the evidence and the other person doesn't, of course, it's going to be that person that gets the start on the programme. So it is important, if you're keen, that you follow through these stages and keep in close communication with the team. There might be lots of you that are thinking, oh no, I don't have my GCSE, or I don't have it at the grade that I need. So in order to take early years initial teacher training, you do have to have a GCSE in English, maths and science. And that does need to be at a grade 4 or a grade C on the old system or above. If you don't have them, again, it's okay. And you do have the option to take an equivalency test. So this is going to check that, again, you've got that same depth and breadth of understanding and you're working at that comparable level. We have put on the screen here A-star equivalency. So we do get lots of people who use them, and we do have a slight discount that we can offer for you if you want to complete them through there. That being said, it's completely up to you. You don't have to use them. There are lots of other providers that will offer you an equivalency, which is suitable, again, for you to start the program. So if you're in that situation, again, the team will know that by assessing your application, and they will send out to you on email some information to help you with your equivalency tests. You do have different options with those as well. It can be that you want to give yourself a longer period of time to study. So you can take like a homework assignment option and you can revise and practice and then book your exam when you're ready. It might be that you feel that you're ready to take the test already and you can just book that and take that at a time that suits you, as long as we have that evidence before the program starts. It's super good news if it is maths that you're missing. So we do offer our maths equivalency test for free. So we use a platform called BKSB, which we use for some maths work whilst you are on program. You're able to use that and you're able to get an equivalency, which will provide you access to our program. The only difference with this, which is why we've got the little star, is it doesn't necessarily mean that that maths equivalency would be accepted by a different ITT provider if you wanted to use it in the future. So again, with all of these things, consider what's best for you, but it's a fantastic offer, which again, doesn't cost you anything. So it helps you to progress to that next step. Hopefully, again, you meet all those conditions in your offer, or you may just have your safeguarding checks to do. And then we start the process of onboarding. So this is when we really want to welcome you onto the program. So the first thing we do is we send you out a welcome pack. And in that welcome pack, it's going to give you a really nice overview of the different things on program. For example, key dates. So you know when your training's going to be, you know when your final interviews are going to be, you know which systems we use to assess and upload your work. And it's got a nice kind of listing there of things that you might want to read before you start on program, or books that we think might be good for you to get ready. So it's really about giving you an overview and helping you to be informed about what's going to happen next. Then when that's happened, you're going to be introduced to your personal tutor. And all of my personal tutors are early years experts. Many of them still work in early years themselves, in different settings or again in different roles in early years education. And your personal tutor is really going to be that key person who works with you the whole way through the program. So first of all, they'll introduce themselves to you, and then they will be the first person that you meet in an initial visit that happens online on a call. At this early stage, you'll also be given some more information about your training group. So we do run different training sessions, again, all across the country. We do tend to have those in main cities. So to give you an idea, this year we've got training groups, for example, in London, Birmingham, Newcastle, Leeds, as an example. We also have online groups which run again throughout the programme. So you do have the option there. When you've been given the information, we then invite you all to an induction session. So everybody starting in the September will be welcomed onto the programme by myself and by some of the tutor team to give you a real flavour of what's going to happen on programme and to make sure that we've covered some key information to get you off to a flying start. Then you get given access to Mosaic, which is the online system we use. And that's the portal that we use for you to upload your work, for the tutors to be able to give you feedback. For example, to upload the observations if your mentor observes you or your tutor observes you, and you'll have your targets set on there and you'll be able to track your progress. Then when we've gone through all those different stages, you'll then get a face-to-face visit as well. So you get to meet your tutor in person. So they will either come out to the setting where you're employed or out to your placement if you're a graduate entry trainee. I thought it would be useful for you to just see what the different training days look like. So again, every training group, regardless of which group you are in, covers the same content. And that starts off on the first day, all about the effective early years teacher. So we're looking day one, all about the statutory documents. What are the frameworks that we have to work with? What are the kind of qualities that make us an effective early years teacher? And I'm sure you can see, looking through the days, that we cover lots of different aspects that are absolutely key in that early years arena. When we've done day 8, which is your final training day, we then go into our final interview process. And that's where all our students are at the moment who joined us in February. So they're just going through their final interviews this week and having their recommendations made by their personal tutors. I've put this slide in around the placements because I would say placements are probably the thing that we get the most questions about. And I think if you're in the situation at the moment about thinking about should I apply or not, what will it look like in terms of how much time I need to have out of my setting if I'm employed at the moment, these are some of the key things that you need to be aware of. So for anyone who is wanting to complete their early years teacher status, it is a DFE requirement that you have to have up-to-date time spent in each of the age groups between 0 to 5. That means that for everybody on programme, you need to spend some time with babies, toddlers, preschool children, reception children in school, and also Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. It also means that everybody must have a contrasting placement from where they are usually of at least 25 days. So typically, if you're employed in a nursery and you've got babies through to preschool in your nursery setting, your 25-day placement would tend to be in school. If we flip that around and you're based in school, your 25-day placement would tend to be in an early years setting so you can develop your knowledge with babies and toddlers. Again, each of those situations is completely unique to you. So we look at the requirements and we make sure that you hit these key facts, but also that it's most beneficial to you in terms of what you're interested in terms of having an experience which is going to be something different for you. If we've got any childminders on the call today, again, it looks a little bit different for you because it's clearly going to be dependent on which children you have on roll in your setting whilst we're on programme. So dependent on how many and how old they are, that will determine your placement. If you're not employed in a setting and you're interested in our graduate entry route, again, placement looks a little bit different because clearly the majority of your time is going to be spent on placement covering that 0 to 5 age range. So you have to complete a minimum of 120 placement days. And as it says there, we like to say at least 4 days a week. That makes sure that you get those real relationships and continuity built up with the children and also with the parents. We do need to make sure that your placements and those age groups are covered in at least 2 different schools. They do need to be rated good or outstanding, or on the new criteria for Ofsted, and that's to make sure that you're getting to see the very best practice when you're going in to observe and when you're working with those other early years teachers. Some people might need 3 placements or 3 settings. Again, that might be dependent on your own situation. And just a little reminder at the bottom, because it is early years teacher status, those settings must be delivering the EYFS or following national curriculum expectations. Thinking about how the programme is assessed, so you know what happens, it's very, very much formatively assessed as we go through each term. So the main things that we're gathering and your personal tutor is supporting you with is observations of your practice and your teaching. It's sequences of work that you will develop. So for example, you might be working in the baby room. You might decide that you're focusing on a particular prime area in the curriculum, like personal, social, and emotional development, and you will identify some activities which are going to support the children to make progress. And alongside that, you're going to link in some theory and some research. And then you're going to reflect on your teaching and reflect on the difference that has made to the children's outcomes. We do set targets at the end of each term. So you'll have an online conversation with your tutor and your mentor, and they will review your progress alongside, discussions and reflections from yourself, and we'll set some targets for the next term. We know that if you follow the programme content, you are going to master our early years curriculum. And in doing that, we know that you're going to have really secure evidence against the early years teacher standards. And that's the summative judgment that we make right at the end of the programme to make sure that you've covered all of those early years teacher standards and we can recommend you for the status. I think it's really, really useful for you to see what that ongoing support looks like. So this is just some of it. It's not all encompassing, but I think some of the key points. Your personal tutor, who I've already mentioned, will be there with you all the way through the programme. You'll have your mentor, which will be somebody that you will identify in your own setting if you're employed, or whilst you're on placement. Again, it'll be a suitable mentor. For example, head teacher, deputy head teacher, reception class teacher, maybe early years foundation stage lead. So it'll be somebody who we feel is going to be a really good support for you and help you to develop your teaching skills. In terms of my team, I also have a regional lead tutor in each region of the country who works really closely with the tutors and the mentors to support your needs whilst you're on programme. Again, if anybody does have any additional learning support that's required, we can absolutely support that, and that starts right at that application stage, as I mentioned before. We have lots of different networks that are going on. For example, we have a neurodiversity network. We have a network group for people who have English as an additional language. And again, we have wellbeing support and wellbeing groups in place. For the childminders, I did mention that right at the beginning, we have a childminding lead and a childminding group of tutors who are either childminders themselves or again have been childminders previously. So they're there to support you. In terms of the ongoing support, that is just continuous. So we have visits that happen throughout the year. Your personal tutor will come out to see you at least 5 times, and that's whilst you're on placement as well. There can be meetings whenever you want them, whether that's online or face-to-face. We'll be in constant contact via your email or discussion groups. And again, you'll have the training days where you're linked in with other people that are obviously studying in your cohort, but also you get the chance to meet the team who facilitate the training days. In terms of resources, there are so many different things that are on offer that you can access in your own time. But some of them that I've popped on there, we do have self-study modules. We have Padlets, which have different articles, videos, documents that you can click into in your own time. We have study packs, and we also have a YouTube playlist. So on there, we'll put recordings of the training days in case you want to watch them back. We'll put sessions on there where we have guest speakers who might come in and do a special session for us on top of the normal offer. So I hope you've been interested and it's answered some of those questions for you in terms of what happens next after that application. I have put the website link on there because I think it would be great and really useful for you to all go away and have a little look if you haven't already. And if you are a childminder, please check out our new childminding page, which is specific to you. If you've got any queries at all in terms of placement, qualifications, other questions that you want to ask about the programme, then please do use the EYITT at bestpracticenet.co.uk email that you can see there. That's going to go through to the office team who again can help answer any of those questions. Again, you can see we've got our other handles, social media handles on there that again, you can interact with if you would like. So I'm just going to open up now if there are any questions from the team that the team want me to pick up that we don't feel that we've been able to answer in the chat box so far. And I'll have a little look myself as well. I can see there's been lots of questions popped in, which is fantastic. And I can see lots of responses from the team, which again is great. I'm just going to have a little bit checked through.
Hello, Helen. I think quite lots of questions is about childminders route.
Okay.
So people would love to know about the placement, how we can help them, support them. Also the funding, the 7,000 funding.
Yep.
Yeah, thank
Yep.
you.
Okay. Yep. No, that's great. And it's really good that we've got people that are interested in that. So in terms of the childminder, that can be the difference. So you can train for free in terms of there is no training cost to you. But most childminders are not eligible for the employer incentive, so for that extra £7,000. There can sometimes be people who are, for example, if you are part of a larger childminding setting and you are perhaps paying people through payroll. So a lot of the financial side for childminders is linked in with how you are classed in terms of your status with HMRC. So whether or not you are a sole trader. So for anybody who wants more information on the financial side, again, I would say have a look on the website, on the childminder page, email into the team, and what we can do is we can share with you the funding guidance and look at whether or not you are eligible for that. In terms of the offer for childminders in general, we do have our childminding lead, who I mentioned earlier. She's called Maxine. Maxine will get in touch with you really, really early on in the program. So again, as soon as you've applied and we know you're a childminder, Maxine will give you a call. And Maxine will find out from you more information about your setting. So again, do you work on your own? Do you have childminding assistants? How many people do you tend to have on roll in your setting? Is there anything that's changing for September in terms of your registration? And then they can give you some more information again about what things look like on program. To give you some examples in terms of placement, we do know placement can obviously be quite challenging if you work on your own. And again, there could be an impact there in terms of the childcare for the children that you're looking after, or again, a financial impact, or perhaps it might be that you're worried about your mentor, who can be your mentor support whilst you're in your setting. So we have lots of other things that we can put in place to support with that. If I pick up on the mentoring, we have mentors in-house in my team. We call them flexible mentors. They would be able to support you in terms of observing your practice, or again, giving you that mentoring support that you would have if you were in setting with a separate mentor. In terms of what it looks like on program, again, it might be, for example, in the sequences of learning, that looks slightly different for you, because again, you might be focusing on something like physical development, and you may be able to do different things as a childminder because you're taking the children out on trips or you're going swimming every day. So when we get to that point, it will be Maxine and the team that will guide you through each step in the journey and make sure that you've got the support in place that you need. I'll drop Maxine's email actually into the chat box as well, because that would be helpful if anyone's got any childminder specific queries.
Perfect. Thank you, Helen.
That's okay.
I got few questions about are we accepting functional skills qualification as GCSE equivalence?
Unfortunately not. We cannot accept functional skills. So I would say if you're in that situation, it would be best to go down the equivalency test route, and we can help to make sure that you're ready for the programme.
Perfect. I think one very interesting questions is still would love to know what's the differences between the ITT and EYITT in terms of the EYTS and QTS as well.
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's a question we get asked a lot, and it's really good to understand the difference. So if you gain early years teacher status, that is very much about you leading that practice in those youngest age groups. So with early years teacher status, you are able to lead teaching in a reception class, in an academy, or in a free school. Unfortunately, at the moment, you can't lead teaching in a reception class in a maintained school with early years teacher status, because it does state at the moment in the statutory guidance that you have to have qualified teacher status to do that. There is a lot going on, again, in the government space around that in terms of it having parity. But as we sit currently, if you were wanting to lead teaching in a maintained school in reception, you would need qualified teacher status. If you are very much early years and you know you want to stay in the early years sector, then I would say early years teacher status is absolutely for you. Equally, it might be that you want to do your early years teacher status first, and then you do always have the option to again go on and get your qualified teacher status afterwards. There are equally people like myself that may have their qualified teacher status first, and then they go on to get their early years teacher status because they'd like to have that recognition for working with the youngest age groups. So I would say it very much would depend on where you want to work or where you see yourself going in the future. Or if you are employed at the moment, it might be worthwhile having that discussion again with your employer in terms of whether QTS or EYTS is the right route for you.
Perfect, thank you. And lots of questions about the GCSEs. Can they do alongside the course?
Unfortunately not. Because it's an eligibility criteria from the DfE, you have to have your GCSEs and your degree in place before you start the programme. So again, don't let that be something that puts you off, because it might be that perhaps you're not ready for the next cohort to start, but you can still apply and we will support you with your next steps. And once you've got those things in place, then we can offer you an interview and again go through that process of sending you an offer. So it might be that there are things you need to do in order to get ready, but that's absolutely fine. You can kind of work towards maybe joining the cohort that starts after.
And some of them are actually doing the GCSE at the moment, but the result is not ready until summer term. So do
Yep.
they still have to do the equivalency test, or is there any way they
No.
can do it earlier?
No, so if you are studying for your GCSEs at the moment and you're waiting for them to come out, again, I would say still apply. Let us know that that's what's happening. Quite often, then we can still take you through that process. Again, it would be a conditional offer until we have the proof of your GCSE, and we will obviously know when the GCSE results get sent out, when they're available. And sometimes we know that you might not get your certificate till a certain date. But again, that's just about that communication with the team. So absolutely, you can still apply in that situation.
Perfect, thank you. And I see kind of questions asking about the full-time route and the
Yeah,
part-time route, about like how many hours they have to spend every day, each week. Would you mind work out for everyone?
yeah, definitely. So I would say there are lots of things, of course, that are the same, whether you're on the employed route or the non-employed route. There are certain things that I would say you need to be doing each week. So each week, we would expect that you are doing some reading or some research, which is supporting the work that you're doing with the children. And that may form part of your planning, assessing, or observing, which I'm sure you would be doing as part of your day-to-day role anyway. I think there are some things that only come up at certain points in the program. So, for example, we have the end of term reviews, which are an online meeting for an hour. You have your observations with your tutor, which obviously, again, they will be booked in to make sure it's a convenient time for you when they come out to visit on setting. You'll have your training days, which happen roughly once a month. Um, so I would say the expectation is you are working on it continually. Um, it is a level 6 program, so it is challenging. You do need to be able to manage that alongside your workload, depending on what your role is in setting. Um, but something that really helps with that is you are entitled to 10% study time. So for anyone who's on any initial teacher training, whether that's early years or QTS or secondary, you do have that 10% time, which is for your planning, for your preparation, for your assessment, for your reading. So it does state really clearly in the DFE criteria that you shouldn't be spending more than 90% of your time directly teaching the children. And that's to allow you to have that opportunity to do the things that you need to do to gather your evidence together.
Lovely. I see lots of questions about the deadline and when is the cohort starting. Would you mind remind everyone, please?
Yep, so the next cohort is actually starting in September this year, which obviously may seem a long way off, but it really isn't. If you're keen, I would definitely say apply now. Stephen, if it's okay, will you maybe type into the chat box the next deadline date that we've got available? So what we tend to do is set this next date. If you're keen now, I would say definitely get your application in because it means you will be the first people that will be pushing through to interview. Just so that everybody is aware, the recruitment window is open and has been open. So we have lots of people that obviously are having interviews, for example, at the moment. So I would definitely say do it as soon as you can. Um, if you graduated, that's what you put in, Stephen. Yep, that's right. If you graduate your EYITT, you gain your early years teacher status. So if people are wondering what the end of the program looks like, when you have gathered all your evidence together and you've had your final review, the personal tutor will recommend you for early years teacher status unless there are gaps or there are things that you haven't completed. What then happens is you go to a final interview again with a member of my team, and you are basically showcasing all the fantastic work that you've developed over the course of the program. So we ask you certain questions covering different topics, and then if we're happy with that final interview, the interview record and your recommendation goes forward to exam board, and then you will gain the status through the DFE. So in terms of the application process, which someone's just asked about, if you watch back the recording from today, there's some information at the start about the application. But if you're ready to go and do that now, what you would need to do is go onto our website, onto the EYITT pages, and there is a button on there which says apply now. If you click on that link, it will take you through to our online portal. You will set up an account. So again, with your name and your email, and you will then start to answer those questions that I talked about at the beginning. It will ask you to upload any documents that you've already got. So if you've got your GCSEs handy and your degree handy, you'll upload them to the system and my team will start processing your application. Yeah, I can see someone's asked about the recording. We will make sure that we share this with you all afterwards. So you've got it and you can share it with your employer, as people are saying. That would help to have that discussion. If your employer, again, has any other questions, I would say the website is really useful for that. Or equally, you can contact the team on the EYITT at email. If they've got any other questions that they want to ask, we'd be happy to help with that. Thank you. That's a lovely comment. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. I hope that's been really helpful for you. If there is anything else that you need, then please do contact us with the things that you can see there on the screen. Do get in touch and we'll be really happy to help you. And I hope to see some of your names popping up in the cohort in September. So thanks very much, everybody, for tonight. And we'll hopefully see you soon.